feels to have the cheater's lament. Hey guys, it's Ihasnotomato here, the Team Fortress 2 YouTuber you've never heard of. And today I want to talk about cheating in 2009. So you guys ever hear of the cheater's lament? Well, you possibly might already, thanks to the recent ish fiasco that was the Great Depression. You see, or remember, on July 25th, 2019, which is apparently over 3 years ago now, what the heck, somebody ought to slow the timeline down or something, jeez. A seemingly inconspicuous update was pushed that added the summer 2019 cosmetic case that had some, neat items. Now this was all well and good, until people started to realize that they were suddenly unboxing an unusually high number of unusuals. And this caused the community to go insane and the in-game economy to crash like the dang old Hindenburg or something. Now naturally this created a tear in the community, as this was quickly seen as an unintended feature that was likely the result of the TF2 dev accidentally pressing an extra 0 or 2. With it essentially being seen as an exploit now, many people began to grow concerns that these falsely distributed unusuals would be the victims of an oncoming rollback that would erase everyone's hard-earned hats, if you can call them that. This, in turn, created a subsect of people who swore off the tantalizing tendrils of the almost guaranteed free unusual in the fear that they would lose them, and a secret hope that they may be in fact rewarded for their abstinence. Specifically, they desired none other than the super rare and OG glowing ring, the cheater's lament. Which viscerally snapped me into a sudden realization on how much times have changed since this hat was first added into the game. As you probably know by now, there was no rollback. The people who got the unusuals were graciously allowed to keep them, while those who listened to the angels on their shoulders were rewarded with nothing. But I'm not talking about that update today, mainly because I've already covered it in another video, and I also basically just covered the whole thing in this video just then. No, today we are going back in time to another update I've already covered, the Sniper vs Spy update, where we can see the origin of the holy hat itself. If you recall, the Sniper vs Spy update was the update that added the well-known drop system that we know today. Except it wasn't quite the well-known drop system that we know today. You see, when it was first added, the whole thing worked by luck, where you would get a drop every 25 minutes to an hour and a half or so if you were lucky, and if you were unlucky, well, there's a small chance that you might just not get anything. It was a whole thing, I'm not gonna go that into it. And people didn't really like this very much. They didn't like the idea of having to essentially put countless hours into this game in the hopes that an item dropped randomly that might not even be what they wanted in the first place. People had jobs, they had school, they needed to sleep, and even if you did none of those things, you still weren't guaranteed anything. So the people took to idling. If you are unfamiliar with what idling is, it's essentially letting your game run without you. You can go and do all the exciting things you wanted to do, and your game will sit there and do the rest. Custom servers were even specifically created for this purpose. They had no time limit and no completable objective, and all you had to do was just stand there and die slowly. The reason you had to die was because that was when you would actually receive an item. And this was all well and good, but I mean, launching the game and having it there and listen, that is a step too far for the real hardcore gamers, alright? The real bad boys instead decided to create third-party programs such as Steam Stats that would effectively let you run the game and join servers without actually having to go through all that laboring hassle of running the game and joining a server. Now with this nifty new invention, you wouldn't even have to think about lifting a finger to play this game that you paid for. Remember, this was before the game went free to play. And this was the last straw for Valve. On the 2nd of September 2009, Valve released a pissed off blog post announcing that they had a zero tolerance stance on using these external doohickeys, and anyone that had used them up until this point got all the items that they earned through this method completely deleted from their backpack. of which it was reported that a whopping 4.5% of players at the time were doing this nonsense. But what about the people who didn't do that? The people who thought it immoral, or more likely just weren't aware of such programs? Well, my friends, as you could probably guess, they were all rewarded with the Cheater's Lament, a halo given to those driven by conscience and goodwill towards all people alike. And this was incredible! Remember, at this point in time, most people in the game had barely even seen a hat before, much less actually own one. So for an astounding number of players, this was their very first hat ever, including me. I remember at the time we were having weird internet problems and we for some reason only got good internet at like 1 AM. But when I saw this announcement, I knew I had to stay up just to get my hands on this beautiful glorified glow stick. It truly was a magical time. However, you may have already figured this out, but in just one day, 95.5% of players all received the exact same hat. And for most of them, that's all they had, so almost literally everybody in the game was rocking this thing. And it wasn't exactly what I would consider to be the most appealing thing to look at, forcing certain classes to have to take off their pre-existing headwear for this thing. As a result, it wasn't long for the appeal of this thing to dry up, and people's perception of the hat gradually changed from awesome free reward to kinda cool thing to just kind of meh to straight up bad. And finally, a hat that was so despised that certain community servers actually had rules that disallowed the hat and would kick you if you dared to wear it in their esteemed server. That's true, by the way, I got kicked for this. It was essentially the beta ghastly gibbous, if you'd like to call it that. Everyone has one and nobody cares. And that's how it remained for years, until as more and more hats came out and steadily became more available, the infamy of the Cheater's Lament slowly faded away into obscurity. That was until, of course, recently in 2019, nearly 10 years after it was originally added, did Discourse suddenly return to this hat for it to return as a reward for the aforementioned Great Depression. And I was personally taken quite aback by this. So much time has passed and the player base has grown and expanded so much that this once despised hat for its sheer number and mediocrity is nowadays seen to be as rare as me leaving the house. It's crazy how age really does increase the quality of things, like this milk. But tell me, what do you think of the hat these days? Do you have it? Do you want it? Do you care? Let me know! Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this little TF2 minor update history. I wanted to fill in the gaps between the major update histories with a few more of the notable minor updates like this one. And I got a few more I'm working on as well that take place between the war update and the next, so look forward to those. Anyway, remember to eat your teeth. Goodbye.
You're a good team.